Morning everybody, movie review time. Greed, directed by Michael Winterbottom and starring Steve Coogan. What's it like? Is it any good? Should you spend your money? Stick around and you'll find out. Now, first of all, if any of you have seen my review of Parasite, link to it up there, you will notice that I had, or you will remember that I had a rather unfortunate experience in the cinema with a man in a cap which rather blocked my view. So the first thing I want to know is, how was my experience this time? Well, my experience was fine. No unfortunate elderly hippies or even young hippies or people with long hair wearing caps. Everything was fine in the Dulwich Picture House. Second thing you'll want to know is I went to this film on my own. My dear wife Jane, who often accompanies me, was not really that interested and was busy anyway and had a bit of a cold. And my son Joel, who's my other favourite movie buddy, could not be... well, he wasn't interested in seeing the film. And the reason he wasn't interested in seeing the film is that we saw a trailer for it, I think when we saw Parasite, or maybe The Lighthouse. Oh, wonderful film, don't miss my review of that. And it just didn't look all that great, and I wasn't sure I wanted to see it, and I thought, well, I'm not doing anything else, why don't I go along to the movies? Gives me a chance to make a review of it. So I did. And the first thing to say is I like Michael Winterbottom. He did Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, which was with Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon. I really like that film. And he's done 3, soon to be 4 series of The Trip, again with Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon. The first series, set in the Lake District, I really liked. The second series, set in Italy, I really liked. The third series, set in Spain, it didn't really work for me. And there were bits in that really got quite boring actually, and not very funny. I'm looking forward to The Trip to Greece, which I think comes out next week or the week after, so I'm hoping that's a return to form. So I like Michael Winterbottom, quite like Steve Coogan. Some of his stuff I've really enjoyed, really like the Alan Partridge series. Some of the other stuff, yeah, and in some respects he seems like quite an interesting person. But as I was saying, the trailer for Greed does not look all that promising. It's a kind of comedic satire on a fashion baron, obviously based on Philip Green, who has a 60th birthday party on Mykonos. And it's going to be a kind of exercise on bad taste, and maybe it's not going to be all that funny. And to a certain extent, that's what it is. It's clearly based on Philip Green, whom Philip Green, I believe, did have a 60th birthday party. Not sure whether it was on Mykonos, but I believe there was a Roman theme to it, where everybody dressed up as togas and gladiators and slaves and things like that. I mean, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Do you have to be a multimillionaire before you lose all sense of perspective and taste? Well, very probably. I'm never going to find out myself. So anyway, that is what the film is about, and it intercuts this birthday party with the rise of Steve Coogan's character, whose name is Richard Macready. Now, the funny thing when you first hear that is you think, Macready, Edie Macready, wasn't she in Balamory? And then you think, yes, she was. Edie Macready, my name's Edie Macready, and what's the weather like today in Balamory? Do you remember that, kids? And the other thing that reminds you of Balamory is that Miles Jupp, who plays the character in Balamory who had a kilt, although I can't remember his name, I think he lived in a castle. Anyway, he appears in Greed as the chairman of a kind of common select committee, interrogating or interviewing Steve Coogan's character as Richard Macready. And I believe Philip Green also appeared in front of a committee, and I believe Philip Green also said, "Stop staring at me," to one of the members of the committee, which Richard Macready in this film does. So it intercuts the rise to fashion brand prominence of Richard Macready, his wheelie-dealing entrepreneurial nature, the way he buys up companies, makes himself very rich, and then the companies go bust, and how he gets all his clothes made in sweatshops in Sri Lanka, where the people work in terrible conditions. So the film starts off as a a satirical look at Philip Green's rise, and it's okay, it's quite good. There's a number of funny lines in it. It's not quite as funny as you think it should be. And David Mitchell, partly through whose eyes the story is told, he plays a journalist, a writer who's hired to write the biography of Richard Macready. So he's kind of interviewing people, and then he's on the Mykonos for this party so he can carry on writing his book. And David Mitchell's character, he's just far too naive and innocent and ignorant to be hired as the writer for this biography. He knows nothing about the fashion industry, knows nothing about the finance industry. He seems to know nothing about anything. So it's his kind of innocent view rather gets in the way of some of my enjoyment of the film. And David Mitchell is he's quite good, David Mitchell, but he is always David Mitchell. And there is a certain element in this film where you're looking at people and think, oh, I know that guy, I've seen him in that film. Well, I've seen that girl before. She was in David Brent's Life on the Road. David Brent, Ricky Gervais's film of Life on the Road. And so you recognise certain characters. One of the things I really enjoyed about Parasite, by the way, is because I'm not familiar with South Korean film and I'm not familiar with South Korean actors, I didn't look at people and say, oh, wasn't that guy in Gavin and Stacey? Or wasn't he in the thick of it? Or something like that, which you do tend to do in this film. Not there's necessarily anything wrong with it, but it does kind of get in your way. Now, the film is set on Mykonos. Now, one of the things, of course, that's currently the case, although I don't think was the case when Sir Philip Green had his birthday party, is that Mykonos is the scene of some Syrian refugees who've landed on the beach. And so you have the juxtaposition of this unimaginable, tasteless wealth of Sir Richard Macready and the miserable, poverty-stricken lives of these Syrian refugees. And those two things are rather cleverly intercut, and they add in the conditions of the workers in the fashion garment districts of Sri Lanka. And the ending of the film is in some ways a surprise, and in some ways, and not so much shocking, but it makes you realise that Michael Winterbottom and Steve Coogan, one presumes, does have the courage of their convictions. They do want to show the real hollow heart at the centre of these people's lives. Now, one thing, of course, about Philip Green, and Philip Green has become, almost like Prince Andrew, he's become a non-person, he's become persona non grata. And one shouldn't forget that Philip Green was a very, very successful businessman for a long time, and in many respects he still is. But he made a number of mistakes. Were they mistakes? He made a number of wrong moves. And when he sold Debenhams, and there was that whole issue with the pension fund, Philip Green has become a pariah in the eyes of the British press and perhaps the whole of the British population. And that's perhaps a little unfair and kind of glosses over the transformation that Philip Green did make in the high street. And he wasn't the only person to ensure that quite well-made, fashionable clothes could be sold at reasonably low prices. Now, what's happened since, of course, is that Philip Green has completely fallen from grace. But the very low-cost garments are for sale, particularly in places like Primark. Now, if you go into Primark, and I do occasionally go into Primark, and I bought a cycling base layer there, and it was £2.99. And you can't help thinking, if I can buy this for £2.99 and Primark can make a profit out of it, somewhere in Southeast Asia is not being paid very much money. Now, the message of this film, if you like, is that some people get unimaginably wealthy, some people get incredibly poor, and nobody gets wealthy without being on the backs of those people who are poor. And you should think, everyone who's watching this film, well, the clothes you're watching the film in, the clothes that you go and buy, the prices that you pay for those clothes, the low prices that you enjoy paying, is it a price worth paying that these people have to suffer in such poverty? Now, will it make people think like that? I'm not sure it will, actually. And the last, before the credits roll, there's quite a long sequence where it goes through the market value and the profits of all the top 10 fashion companies and brands, and the average wages for a person who works in a garment factory in Sri Lanka, and how the majority of these people are women, and the majority of multi-billionaires are men, and so on and so forth. So it gives you a lot of information, it gives you a lot of facts, and these are peppered throughout the film in a rather clever and interesting way. As I say, it is funny. It's not necessarily as funny as it should be. It is biting satire in some places. There is a comeuppance for the Philip Green character, which has not, at least so far, happened in real life. So is it any good? Yes, actually. I didn't go in expecting it to be a good film. I didn't go in expecting it to enjoy it. If I'm honest, I expected to slag it off in this review, and I haven't done so. And I don't slag off films just for the sake of it. If I slag them off, it's because I don't think they're very good. I enjoyed this film. I think it's a good film. I think it's got a good message there. I think Steve Coogan is very good as Edie McCready, Richard McCready, Greedy McCready, etc., etc. All the other characters are very good as well. There's quite an interesting subplot where McCready's daughter, I think it is filming a kind of reality type TV series which kind of gets in the way of the party and the Syrian refugees and so on. That's quite well handled and quite funny. So yes, go and see it. It will open your eyes. Well, will it open your eyes? Well, it should open your eyes. It should make you think more about the price that you're paying for your clothes, and you can enjoy it and have a few laughs along the way. So go and see it. It's worth seeing. The trailer doesn't do it justice. Thanks for watching. See you next time.